Greetings. How do you do? How do you do? I'm here to talk about a transit which has actually already begun. This transit is Mars in Libra. It's like on your marks, steady, go. Because Mars is the gun and the starting line has already begun. So we've crossed it. So you can consider yourself your own hero. That's the one that Mars is. Mars is the front runner. Mars is off on the course, already running. And it's about really also having a perspective, because this is what Libra is about. So we can consider this one individual point of awareness, this front runner, you, me, ourselves, the individual, the hero, the warrior, the spirit incarnated into the flesh, the grand flash, the spark, you, the kid, the ram, that I am. Mars is in Libra, and we have a certain perspective about ourselves and about each other. It's oh so revealing, and yet we kind of sometimes want to go directly through the keyhole, directly through the eye of the needle, because we're talking about Mars ruling Aries, which is 180 degrees across the way. So Mars is far, far from home. Far is a certain frequency in itself. And so what we're talking about is being able to see through ourselves. But what we sometimes radically consume is illusions. Well, I say sometimes, we're always working with our own illusions of a certain grandeur, if you will. And yet how do we pierce through them? But that happens with a certain level of depth, which we all have. Mars also rules Scorpio, doesn't it? Yes, indeed. So we're also talking about this level of depth. And yet with this Venetian quality to being 180 degrees across from one another, it's quite enticing. It's quite enchanting. It's like quintessentially beautiful when we're dealing with the Libra energy. We've all got the ability to be enchanted by all kinds of things. This is Earth. This is the atmospherics. When we're talking about Libra, we're talking about opposition. We're talking about the atmospherics. We're talking about the evening out of our depth of perception. We're talking about the evening time. We're talking about Adam, Mars, and Eve, Venus, or Libra. So it's Aries is 6 a.m. and Libra, well, it's 6 p.m, especially around this kind of time, around the equinox part of the year. We're just actually going to be moving into the equinox after this full moon, which we'll be talking about. We'll be talking about it, but we're focusing like a laser beam. We're focused like Mars. We're focused on going into the direction. And sometimes that is going into an illusion, which is cast by our own shadow. And yet we seem that we project these illusions. This is like the projection. Libra is also our projections, like what you would see Jung talk about. He would say we would make a perfect pet projection of our mothers and fathers onto the perfect ideal canvas, which would be our lovers, or some others. Could be it's our villains in the workplace. It could be our heroes that we admire. But actually we're putting people above or below in our judgment, in the scales, in the weight of our own determination. This is what Libra energy is. We're going to put people into detriment. Are we going to put people into fall, into debt in our own mind? They're less than. They're less than us. They're not as valuable as us. Or are we going to put them on a pedestal? Rise them up above us? That means that we're putting ourselves indebted to those people that we've put on a pedestal. And so this is what's coming into determination. What are we avoiding by going into an illusion with a certain thing? By putting things on a pedestal above us? Or are we putting things below us, which means that we're putting them above, that we deem ourselves to be above them. This is Libra stuff. And it's all about our perspective. It's all about our intellectual awareness, but it's got a certain meaning to it, because it's all about the layers of our story. We do this to protect ourselves, that we go into illusions to softly, gently take away the pain, because what we have the opportunity to do is put our own boundaries up. Often we can find that we're going into an illusion to finally capture the opportunity to replay our own dramas, to replay our own traumas, to replay in a safe way that sets the scene, something that we've already been through, so that we can do it in a way that comes into terms that we can recognize and accept with greater love. And this is what we do here on Earth. Believe it or not, I believe it's so. We've sown it into the scenes. We've actually seeded it within our own experiences, within our own chart. We unfold them here through the depth of time. It's the third dimension. This is where it all happens. It's the place. It's the heart. It's where we find that actually all of our stories encapsulated within our hearts are earthed within the atmosphere. Yes, light. It seems that actually light is an inferior quality to the sound vibration which we experience within our hearts. And so we can find that this is the opportunity to really come into terms with our story, with our relationships, to things that are 180 degrees opposite from us in the atmosphere. And it's the evening out of these on the scales of judgment that we do. But it's us, which is the individual, which is judging. It is us, the individual, which is recognizing self and healing ourselves as well. We can find that actually beyond love, there's the all-inclusive nature of the gosh darn compassion, which we seek in the first place. We can find that if we can have compassion for the achy, breaky hearts that we come into connection with and see that they're a reflection of our own near dear, broken parts, then we can heal it. We can have love. We can have compassion. We can have recognition. We can find that we can take what we seize in the atmosphere and return it back into our hearts here. We can return it back to our space here, the central determination of our own recognition, where we can find that we will be the counteracting responsible love for what we seize out here in the atmosphere. And that is truly the warrior. That is truly taking into account ability, how valuable all of our experiences are here. That's truly being the healers and the doctors of time. Doctors? Well, yes, doctors means not only to heal, but to make a change. If you get a stung kind of thing when you're walking around the wild, and this is the wilderness, to have you know, especially with Venus in Scorpio and Mars in Libra, they're in each other's signs. They're in mutual reception. So when walking around far from home as we move into the fall and we recognize consciously all of the shadows so beautifully, so they are, through the shades, through the multiple different shades of reds and blue, even those which go into darker than that, all the greys, all of those greys. But I love the oranges too. When we go into all of the things that we see on our display, we can recognize even the things that we wouldn't choose, of opportunities for us to encounter ourselves, opportunities for us to unpack our stories. And stories aren't nothing but batteries. We can charge ourselves up on the dark parts that actually is very personal story. It's the hero's journey. Yes, it's the hero's journey to recognize self and to take responsibility for the love that which we bestow, even though we can't always share it. We can't always be recognized by that which we deem to be the most credible, because it's just incredible who you are, who I am. And that is the grand response that changes time. We are the change that which we seek. Pluto is the modern day ruler of Scorpio, and we are so familiar that it is death. But if we go back and we recognize Mars as this original ruler of Scorpio, then we can say that the hero has to go through many, many deaths in its journey. And it's that death, the false illusion of an ending, that is our born again opportunity of a rich, rich story of self-empowerment. So thank you for coming into yourself. Thank you for recognizing who you are. And that is the root, the cedar, the creator of your story. We are able to masquerade. We're able to see through ourselves. Peekaboo, we're a mirror, just calling back, saying, hey, I am you. Thank you for being my reflection. I know that we're just a meme at this time. I appreciate you. Thank you for miming. Thank you for reflecting love. I'm grateful for each and every single one of you. We're going to go through each of these transits of Mars and Libra. We've got them written down here. So we're going to go right through them. And I'm going to bring it up on the chart now. I'm grateful for you. If you want to book a consultation with me, I'm available for you. Yes, indeed, do I am. You can get in contact by the usual means in the description box of the video. We're going to be going through not the transits, but we're going to be going through all of the horoscopes as well for each of the signs. So stick around for that. I am just going to read out some feedback from a client here. She says, Philip provided me with such an informative reading. His knowledge about astrology helps me understand my greatest strengths and how to improve upon challenges I face. His charisma made my journey, made my reading a whole lot more enjoyable. I recommend Philip's skill to everyone wanting to understand themselves further. Well, thank you so much, Susie. I'm grateful for that reflection. If you would like me to hold that space for you, well, that's what I'll do. Find me in the description box below. We'll arrange a mutually beneficial time to connect. And we'll go through some of your challenges, go through some of your greatest aspects. We'll look at them through the veneer astrology, which is really, really one of the most spectacular tools that we have, because it allows us to take a step back from our kind of life perspective, from our 3D perspective, into our heart, into our most loving eyes, and hold a loving space for where we've been through and where we are able to go. And so this really opens up the opportunities that which we're able to perceive for ourselves. And it allows us to face ourselves, which is really what Mars in Libra is all about. It's about facing ourselves, and we can be in the denial or we can be in our hearts. And so we bounce between the two, and we can recognize when we do this. It's like a do-si-do, but this is what we do here in the very nature of Earth, the Maya. It's the garden. It's our garden. It's our hearts. This is the place to be. So thank you for being present. Thank you for recognizing that you are the gift. I'm grateful for each of you in the live chat. I see you, Stephen the Jupiterian and Brandon Bartlett. I'm grateful for you as well as the third eye activated. And Matt Ra, Jazzy Thoughts. I'm grateful for each and every single one of you. If you're watching this in a recorded video, by gosh, I'm grateful for you too. Thanks for sharing this video about. Thank you for giving yourself a thumbs up. And the video too. We're grateful for you. So I'm going to get this chart up on the screen currently so we can go through all of these different things which we got going through. It's actually that Mars is in Libra. As of Tuesday, Mars' day, the French call it Mardi, and it's going to be that Mars is in Libra all the way until October the 30th, which is quite a long time. It's about 5, 6, 7 weeks. Rather than a week, I'd like to call it a strong front, or 7 days. Anyway, here's the chart. I've got it ready for us now. I see you, Louise, Sue. I'm grateful for you. Yeah, but I'm in Mexico, and they had the Mexican Day of Independence yesterday, and they don't have fireworks anymore because they used to have the tradition of waiting till 12 o'clock and then fireworks, which is very Mars in Libra. However, they didn't do so many. There was 1 or 2 because the birds, they actually fell from the skies too much and it wasn't so pleasant. There were so many dead birds the next day, so they stopped doing that and they really paid attention. I suppose it's not so nice having to clear up so many birds. I don't see any birds this morning, so they did a good job in listening to that rule. Quite a good rule, maybe. Who's to say? Anyway, intending that you're having a fantastic day. If you did celebrate that Mexican independence, hooray for you guys. We're all here celebrating our independence. I'm not so much a nationalist, but I love a good celebration of culture. Let me take a swig of my water and I'll run through these transits which have just appeared on the screen. Right. So I'm just going to be talking about the transits that apply to Mars, or Mars applying to any other aspects with other luminaries that we've got going on here. And let me just do one more fixture on the chart. You might be wondering what that arrow down next to Mars is. I'm going to remove it, but I'll let you in on what it is. It's Vulcan. And that little thing isn't actually a planet, but it's a point of reference within the astrological chart. And it's always within about 8 to 10 degrees of the sun. It goes back and forth, back and forth, back and forth, as you would see if I kept it on there. I think it's going to be a bit distracting, so I'm going to remove it. But it goes back and forth, and Vulcan isn't even quite a planet just yet. It's kind of like an inspiration, a bit like Uranus, a flash, but it's more so like this muse that goes around ourselves. It's like, okay, well, this thing I could bring into manifestation, what is it? It's a certain, you know, you could say it's Venetian, je ne sais quoi, as the French would say, but it's actually this thing which is a bit like our imagination, and we are bringing it into manifestation, and it's always very close to the sun. It goes back and forth, back and forth. Vulcan, it is very good, very cool. And so, yes, anyway, so it's removed now, so it doesn't distract us on our little journey of Mars through Libra. But I will highlight, as we have already brought up by Donnie, fantastic astrologer on this channel, who also did a really good video today about the midheaven and careers. Check that video out. He did a video a couple of weeks back about how Mars and Venus are in mutual reception. Oh, yes, they are. This means they're in one another's signs, which is, if you've got any in your natal chart, very cool. That's when you've got like a planet in a sign that is ruled by each other's planet. I didn't describe that very well. So Venus rules Taurus and Libra, right? And Mars rules both Aries and Scorpio. And so when you've got Mars in Libra and Venus in Scorpio, they're in each other's signs. And so that's very interesting, isn't it? And so when actually we had, if you put Saturn in Pisces and left Jupiter in Aquarius, that would also be the case, because Saturn rules Aquarius, as does Jupiter rule Pisces. So if you've got any in your own natal chart, then you've got a mutual reception going on, and it's pretty cool. Anyway, so when Mars and Venus are doing it, it means that we've got this kind of, they're janky. They were personally like, some would say in the old astrological books that Venus in Scorpio and Mars is in Libra, is that they're kind of at their full there. That's where they least want to be, because they're so far is the frequency. They're so far from home that actually they, they really struggle there. I'm born with Venus and Scorpio, and so is a lot of people, as well as Mars in Libra. So it's not actually that it's bad, it's just that very evolved souls would choose to have planets at full, like the sun is at full in Libra, because they even call the season the full. Anyway, I'm distracting all of this with chit chat with some astrological pearls, so I'll stop slinging you guys all these pearls. I see you, the real Cato Gaming, and Cassie, I'm grateful for you, and Mackie King, thank you each for being present. Oh, you've got Saturn in Libra, do you, real Cato? Saturn in Libra is exalted. That's its favorite sign. Classy. I like a bit of that. It means you must have very nice views and perspectives. All that stuff we were talking about Libra, you know all about it. And so there you go. When we're talking about Mars now, and recognize all that it's very important, because I'll give you this heads up also about this transit before we start moving it forward. We've got Libra, Mercury in Libra as well right now, and so it's slowing down. It's already in its shadow phase, and it has been for quite a while. And so it's since 10 degrees. And so basically it's going to be retracing its steps. You saw me do the Mercury and Libra video. We already banged on about it a few weeks ago. And so the point of it is that anything that we enact, anything that we're looking at with this Mars transit, it's all going to be refathomed and re-thought about as we rethink our own perspective on who we are and who we're interacting with regards to this Mercury retrograde shenanigans. And we can also recognize that Pluto is going to be stationed direct by the time that Venus reaches the 29th degree of Scorpio, which we will talk about as we come along. As will Saturn and Jupiter be stationing direct as well. But our first aspect to Mars, as the moon, which is its way through Aquarius at this time, is actually making this lovely trine to Mars right now. We got the moon up here making a grand Earth trine, which is probably why I've been talking so much. 18 minutes and you just start talking about the transits. Goodness gosh. Yeah, you heard me. I've been talking because there's a lot of air in the room. We've not only got Mercury making that trine to Jupiter, but we've got this grand air trine with Mars and the moon and Saturn, as well as Rahu, the North Node. And so this is quite a lot to perceive, but yet hopefully with this Saturn energy, we're kind of being kind of diplomatic. We're framing it up. We're making this kind of chaos into something that's productive for you guys. And we're bringing it into a various different perspectives for you to summarize. It's not just a poem, it's dear consciousness that we're working with here. And so it will be on the 20th of September, which is actually when we're very close to our full moon at the end of Pisces over here. It is the same day that we have Mars at 3 degrees of Libra. 3 degrees of Libra Mars will be making a trine to Rahu exactly. So it's applying. It's like we're building up as this energy towards the full moon in Pisces. It's happening right at the end of Pisces at 28 degrees is building. We're also recognizing as this builds, we're coming towards the equinox, which is a very Christly moment. And we're not talking about religion. When we talk about Christ, we're talking about a crystal energy, which is inside of your pineal gland. We're recognizing that at certain times of the day and night, you have an REM sleep that goes off the Richter scale. And it's the same with the seasons. It happens to us all. We get baptized within our own anatomy at certain times, and this is the Virgo season, it's the harvest season, so we're coming to this equinox moment. It's very empowering. And so just like the catalytic nature of having this harvest full moon at the end of Pisces, which we'll talk about in a couple of days, we're recognizing that Mars is aspecting the Rahu in Gemini all week as we build towards it. And so Rahu is 4 degrees of Gemini, and it also means that Mars will be sextiling Ketu. What does it mean? What does it mean? Well, it's a bit like we're having reasons for us to break free from old perspectives, reasons for us to set ourselves free from old beliefs. And that means that we can open up to new ideas about who we are, open up to new perspectives and portrayals of the characteristics of that which we are, you and me, how we work ourselves, how we walk, how we strut. We might not want to strut, we might want to be more conservative, we might want to do things in a more reclusive, hermetic way. You might think, I need better boundaries that you need to learn about. So this is the kind of thing, because it's a grand air trine. Saturn's involved. It's about repackaging yourself. It's about being kind of diplomatic about the hero's journey, but you're not going to hold yourself back. There's a gregarious nature to it. We're talking about Mars. You're talking about your hero's journey, which means you've got to pierce through something. You've got to pierce through what's already been done. Your uniqueness is your stamp of approval. It's your rite of passage. You could even say your fear is your greatest rite of passage. Yes, indeed. My fears are. So when I recognize that there's things that I'm scared of, yeah, I've got fears. I'm talking to each one of you here. I've got things I'm scared of. Sometimes I could say I'm scared of talking to such a wide audience, but also much more importantly, that's not a big fear of mine. More importantly, I've got like dietary habits, you know, I've got a healing journey. I've got, what's it called? Food disorder, you know? And so I've got this opportunity to face my fears. And that is very Venus in Scorpio. I've got it in the second house. We've all got fears. I know we do, and they're sensitive things because my clients, we deal with them. You hear my tone changed. I stopped being the entertainer. I stopped being the theatrical hero that I enjoy to be. And I recognize that it's also very heroic to expose yourself and to say that I'm going to remove the mask and say, these are my vulnerabilities. And this is what we can do. With Venus and Scorpio, it's about recognizing our vulnerabilities. With Mars in Libra, it's about saying, hey, I can say that there's these things in the atmospherics that I can face. And that's going to make me more strong. It's going to make me more valuable. It's going to make you more valuable when you face your fears, whether it's going to the dentist or whether it's standing in the center of a stage, whether it's going for that job which you really want, but you think maybe it's too big for you. But you can get it if you pursue it. If you go for it, you can get that job. You can be your own boss. You can be your own hero, baby, because that's what you came here to do. And know this, I can face my own disorder and make it my own hero's journey. It's about reframing the Libra perspective and putting yourself in pole position in the central heart space and recognizing that, yes, you can. Yes, you can. When you saturate yourself in love, you can do anything. You can recognize yourself as absolutely flipping awesome when you change the script, when you flip it for yourself. And that's my name, Philip. So flip it for yourself, because you're worthy of no less than you're choosing you. And when you choose you, you're recognizing that you are that hero. Let me go back into these transits. So Mars will do that lovely ground air trine, and it will eventually make that lovely 120-degree aspect to Rahu. And then we got a few more days, and it will be September the 25th as we come into the waning half of this cycle. That moon, it will go exalted through Taurus. But on the 25th, on that day, we will have Mars in fellow Venetian sign of Libra at 7 degrees, making a harmonic perfect trine to Saturn retrograde domicile in Aquarius. And so we can recognize that there's an altering of our script. Again, just like what I've been saying, it was an omen. And so it's about our boundaries. We're setting ourselves up, bound for glory. We had the equinox, didn't we? A couple of days before that on the 21st. Whoop-de-doo! This is that point which I spoke about. It's the time of anointment. It's the time of coming in to the autumn. It's the autumnal period where we let go of our old belief systems because we go beyond the veil. The veil of our own illusions can fall. Yes, they can, like the leaves fall from the trees. All the beliefs that kept us stuck can fall to a grand new opportunity of composure. The grand composite nature of our story will biodegrade and create into something new. A whole new world is exactly what we come to see. But we see it through the demise of that which we've already come to be. It's beautiful, you see. And so, yeah, that goes on the 25th of Mars at 7 degrees. They're making that trine to Saturn. It's like, hey, how can I really take responsibility and be the change that I want to be? It's about actually being responsible for what we're doing in our experiences. And with that trine from the moon at that time to Pluto in the earth signs, it's a very practical operation that we're feeling into. And again, that sun is still very close to the equinox period, and it's traveling now with Mars and Libra. And so we can focus on the atmospherics that make us feel small, make us feel contorted. You could be that Saturn's packing you into a box, and you could feel that, oh my gosh, it's like lockdown again. But actually, if you're putting your attention on all that kind of stuff, then you're not creating your new story. You're not creating your story. You're going on his story, some other story. You're going on some other channel, and you've got to get off that groove and get into you, because you've got to put the needle on the groove of your own record, baby. You've got to be able to create your own frequency. You've got to create your own vibe. You've got to be able to create something that makes you want to jive, because when you do the thing that you came to do for you, you're being your hero, and you can be laser focused about it. With the sun next to Mars, it's going to be traveling. We're going to have a Libra new moon, as you see, next to Mars. It's going to be a couple of weeks, maybe 3 weeks of this sun next to Mars, and it's going on as of the equinox, man, next week. And so we can recognize that can't be a very martial time. You could be scared if you're buying into the atmosphere. So buy into you, buy into your heart, buy into the things that you do that bring you joy. It's not advice. It's what I'm going to be practicing, because it's so easy to fall into the atmospherics. It could be actually the most healthy thing to do, to fall into the old stories that we're processing, our personal stories with our own lovers, our family members, our children's, even the reflections of stories that go back to when we were children, because Mars is the kid. So we're recognizing this is a replay of our own stories since we were a kid, so that we can come into greater terms with them, even if we're still in our later years. We're replaying these stories that since we were a kid, so that we can come into a greater harmonic frequency, a greater adaptation of who we are being in our experience. And so this is very powerful. It's better than just going into all that stuff which is on the TV. Come on. It's better than going off into all the gossip which we see on social media. Come on. It's coming into ourselves which we can do with this energy. The moon joins the ground air trine the day after that. That's pretty cool. And then we're moving through the end of September. September is the seventh month of the Zodiac year, but obviously it's the 9th month of the Gregorian calendar. Isn't that interesting to reflect on for a moment there? As we move through these months, the moon will be coming through its home sign as we move through the end of September, opposing Pluto as it does. It loves it. And it's this transcendence of our emotions. How do we support ourselves with our boundaries? The sun gradually moving closer to Mars through these days. Mercury station retrograde. What date was that? That was on the 27th, when the moon was in Mercury sign of Gemini. Just to be aware there, Mercury spent an extended period at the 25th degree while we're just moving through the beginning stages of that Libra season. Still within this Virgo lunar cycle, don't you know? Important to remember, a mercurial lunar cycle that we are within at this stage, moving through to October. Okay, and so on the 1st of October, we have Mars at 10 degrees of Libra in a 180-degree opposition, which is kind of like Libra, considering Libra's the 7th sign and it's 180 degrees across the way from Aries, which is where Chiron is. And so we can recognize that this is our own hero's journey when we face up to our own parts of ourselves that maybe we wouldn't feel 100% comfortable with. But actually, it's for our own benefit. We can find that even if we're doing it with other people that have had similar experiences of ourselves, it's an opportunity to redress our wounding. It's really hard to say those R's with those W's, but if we can redress our wounding, because I've got Chiron in Gemini, when we redress our wounding, we can become our own hero, baby. And so with Mercury retrograde and the Sun next to Mars 180 degrees across the way from Chiron, we can redress our wounding and become experts like a maverick. We can redress our wounding and we can become profoundly exquisite like a maverick, and that's our own hero's journey when we're healing the warrior like an inspired incarnation of who we came to be, because it's the frequency that we emit beyond time that makes us who we are. All right, Mercury stationed retrograde in a square to Pluto, the deeper vibrational octave of Mars. Mercury stationed retrograde, making a trine to Jupiter, which is also stationed. This is interesting. The Sun is also been, while it was going through these degrees, making that trine to Saturn. These are some very harmonic times. We are finally retuning our perception of our stories in relation to each other and ourselves. This is a time of tremendous magnetism and great repulsion. And we need both. We need both in the chemistry set. We need to recognize the love and compassion within repulsion and magnetism and see ourselves in all that which we are doing. If we concede love in all that which we are working with, then we're working within the totality of our abundance without just being assumed, which is so easy for us to do. Within fear, within scary, taunting, daunting moments when we're facing the music, especially as I say this at this time. Look at Venus, sextile to Pluto, which is about to station direct. It's a very pinnacle-based time. Okay, we'll keep on moving, we will. And then it will be on the 6th that actually we have our next aspect from Mars as it gets to 13 degrees of Libra. We'll have a Venetian aspect, we shall, on the 6th. It's kind of like the 5th, the 6th, depends where you are, of October. It's a quincunx to Uranus retrograde in Taurus. And so we're integrating the profound nature of our uniqueness, of our weirdness, of our quirkiness, of our own environment, of our networks, of our spheres of influence, of something that's beyond time. It's a vision for ourselves. The moon is in its dark lunar phase. It's actually joined Mars, the Sun, and Mercury in Libra, and we will have that new moon in Libra in a conjunction with Mars. Look at it. It happens the next day. I'll just put it up into the exactitude. We won't talk about it at great length, but we've got to have a little tool look at it because it's so meaningful. Mercury retrograde is saying, hey, we've got to alter the script. We've got to change this script. This level of perception has to become more profound, or it could not. We can trip over ourselves, we can stumble, we can fall. Of course, there's no time like the present to stumble and fall, because it is the autumnal time. And so sometimes even the stumbling, even the falling, even the grazing our knees or bumping of our heads gives us the opportunity to recognize that we are safe. We're taken care of. You and I, we've been through a lot, and we'll go through a lot more. This is a very powerful new moon with Pluto station in Capricorn. It's magnificent for us to recognize that when we hold good boundaries for ourselves and assert ourselves, moving towards things that are a little bit intimidating, we can be our own parent. We can be the farthest example of love from us, as well as our nearest and dearest. We can be the farthest example of good boundaries that set the scene of that manifestation that yet hasn't been. But we can manifest it by being the love that which we seek, as well as within ourselves, supporting ourselves nearly, dearly, sincerely. And that is the love that which we came to be with this new moon in Libra. It has to be that way. It must be that way. Otherwise, it's going to be an achy, shaky kind of duff perspective kind of experience where maybe we're going to be taunted, we're going to be daunted, and we could be going into our inferiorities. But when we boost ourselves up and we recognize that this is a wave frequency, we can come into the acceptance that both is part of our reality. All is something that we can love. Compassion is that which we bestow. Look at that. New moon, same degree as Mars in its opposing sign. That's madness. I love it. But we can recognize that the dispositor for that new moon is Venus at the very anoretic degree of Mars's sign. Pretty much. It's not quite at the anoretic, it's at 28. And it's I think that's amazing because it's actually also the day that the deeper vibrational octave of Mars, Pluto, is stationed direct. So let's keep moving. It's just a really interesting little focus on that new moon. A couple of days later, we have another aspect from Mars when it makes that conjunction with the Sun. Yes, the Sun-Mars conjunction takes place here. It's at 14 degrees? Oh, we're moving by the hour, it would seem. Here, let's just have a look at it, go exact. It's quite a poignant thing. You can see that maybe in the news stories at this time, it's going to be quite mad. So we'll really focus on you anchoring. You know, they say on the news, they've got a TV anchor. Somebody else might call him something else, but at the end of the day, it's about you anchoring a frequency of love, creating your story. I advocate for you creating your story and ignoring any other delirium that's going through the very elusive television set. Tell your own vision. Create your own story. Don't go into the media because your body is the media, and what you emit, that frequency which you tell to yourself every single day, that's the one that counts. I said it counts. It counts just like the money in your bank account. Yes, that's actually probably more important. How you feel, how I feel about me. And so it's very important that we take responsibility. Yeah, there's a responsibility for frequency because it's sound, it's vibration, and it's a feeling which we can feel. It's sensitive when we're doing things like recognizing frequency in Libra times. This is a Libra sign. This is what we need to work with. So Mars will go on after its conjunction. The next day, it will have, this is very important because the Sun moves in front of Mars. Mars is now behind the Sun. It is slower than the Sun. But Mars, not so long ago, was in front of Venus, which is now front runner. And so Mars has fallen way behind. But the hero always does this. It's part of its cycle. But it's an okay part of the cycle. We don't mind Mars falling behind at this degree. Eventually, it will reappear in the sky. Thank goodness. Anyway, so there's this opportunity to rework our vision for who we are with Mars submerged, assumed by the beams of the Sun, of course. Let me keep moving on, because on the 9th, we've got Mars making its conjunction with Mercury. When Mercury is coming back, here we go, it's 16 degrees. So Mercury's moving faster than Mars, obviously, moving backwards. Mars is still trying to move forwards, but it's behind the Sun. Not mocking Mars at its pace. But it will be then another week before we have our next martial aspect, and we're moving into the waxing of this Libra lunar cycle. Venus goes over its own south node at the same time as we have that conjunction with Mercury and Mars, and so that's quite interesting for us. And then it shall be on the 16th, so it's a whole month from now. We got this Mars at 20 degrees of Libra, making a quincunx to Neptune retrograde at 20 degrees of Pisces. And so this is about fathoming a level of depth. The moon is also in Pisces. It might be that we can find it interesting to come into this period. Also the Sun making a square to Pluto, making this trine to Jupiter. And Saturn, let's go back. Saturn's to station direct as well. When was that? It was just as the moon was about to go into Capricorn. Saturn's just before the moon went into Capricorn. Here, this Saturn station direct. Interesting. So that is okay. And so we can find that we've maybe set ourselves up to take responsibility, as I've been saying, for a lot of the things that we've had to face that can really give us longevity. And it's about really now enacting these things. It's like coming to terms that, okay, well, I'm going to go and do that thing that I've been putting off, procrastinating, and now it's about doing it, because Mars is about doing it. It's about enacting it. It's about being that frequency and loving it, because Mars is about joy. It's about reframing and holding back from things that we might regret, and it's about going for things that we really, really would love to be doing, because it makes us in our most magnificent excitement. And so that's what we can recognize at this time. And we're like integrating it into our vision. And I've got this kind of vision, but it's an illusion that needs to be washed away, of doubt that we couldn't do it, and the opportunity to continue to pursue it that gives us that frequency of love. 18th of October, Mars, 22 degrees of Libra, makes a trine perfect to Jupiter. So it's already been doing it for a little while, because Mars is fairly slow. It does all of its aspects, very slow building and then a little bit of a waning one. So you can say that they're all about 5 days long. Obviously, it does depend how fast those other planets are and where they are. And so this is happening in the air signs. And it's like, wow, I've done something. I've accomplished something. And it's interesting because this is the same day that Mercury comes into its station in the same sign, as well as Jupiter itself is stationed while Mars makes this aspect. So wow, it's like you've just won a trophy. You just did that thing. You did that thing which you came to do, that thing that you wanted to do, the masquerade. It was just spinning around like a ball, but you managed to achieve it, and you weren't even wearing a mask. You managed to do it because you were being authentic. You were being vulnerable. You faced the music. It's a bit like me facing that food disorder, you know? It's a bit like me recognizing I could do that thing that I doubted I couldn't. It's a bit like me saying, hey, I've achieved something that was actually said and deemed as impossible, and one went and did it. So you can recognize, we can find that may be a time that this is something that we're achieving, or there may be the pressure on that we're going to have to face the music and achieve it. But the belief, the courage, we've set ourselves up, and we can go and do it at this point moving forward, with Saturn having gone into its station, moving forward energy, and now Jupiter also, and Mercury on the same day as Jupiter, as Mars makes that trine to Jupiter. It's a bit like, hey, I've got the courage, and it came from the rage. It came from the burning rage of not having done it before for self, because something got in our way, whether it was an illusion or whether it was an idea of falsehood, whatever it was. We're like, I'm going to escape getting right in my own way, and I'm going to go for it because you are worthy of no less. And you recognize that thing that you can do. So go do it for you and nobody else. And everybody was meant to be with you. All the opportunities that are for you will be there for you. You've just got to cut yourself free from doubt, because that is the only sticky thing, the only tacky thing that keeps us back from being our own hero, baby. And so Enrique Iglesias said it no better than to be your own hero. We move beyond this point, and it will be a couple of days later, even though Mars, moving so slowly, will still be in a harmonic trine to the great benefic through these last days of this Libra season, cutting through the depth of perspective. We have a full moon in Aries, Mars's sign, 180 degrees across the way, almost, to Mars. It's actually not 180 degrees, that's the sun and the moon. But we can see Mars is still so close to the sun at the time of this full moon. It will be an absolute relief, you could suggest, maybe, to release this energy at this time. It can be an absolute relief for us to cut ourselves free from these heavy burdens, these heavy things that kept us stuck. You've got to reframe your story. This is our opportunity to cut ourselves free and be the change that which we were seeking. And that means rolling the dice. It means doing something different. It means walking a different walk and talking a different talk. Oh, yes, it's perceiving ourselves in a different way, because it's that gives us the permission to use that core rage and turn it into courage, turn it into the burning embers that fuels your fire, as only the courageous warrior, the hero, can be. And so that's very important, very, very necessary. We see Mars makes that applying square to Pluto at the time of this full moon. What a humdinger of a cardinal energy we've got going on there. And that's going to be interesting. We haven't even spoken about the Pisces full moon yet, so we'll leave that for now. And so this is the last aspect, this Mars to Pluto, remembering that Pluto is the deeper vibrational octave of Mars, both of which rule the root, the Malabandha. And let's give an opportunity to process this Malabandha. It's actually where the Kundalini rises for. And if we use it eruptively, if we use it explosively, then it can be a little bit like when you use a car and it just goes and it's gone. So what you really want to do is have clutch control. Libra teaches us clutch control. And what we do is we put into practice our yoga. We put into practice our meditation. And we make our fuel last. And we can go vroom, vroom, when we need to go vroom. We can find that we've got enough energy to take us exactly where we need to go. Because when we do that yoga, it allows those burning things to combust in ourselves. It allows the oils within our muscles to combust, the natural fats within us. And then that rises the Kundalini to our pineal gland, and that raises the consciousness from the root chakra, from unconsciousness to awareness, so that we can respond rather than erupt, so that we can go from reactions to coming into conscious, compassionate displays of who we truly came here to be. And that's being present. That's being the gift. That's being who you are. And that's a sound, vibration, frequency. That's a sphere that's very influential. Yeah, stars aren't the only influencers. You're very influential. You count. Your voice counts. Your movements count. How you carry yourself counts. How you're perceiving of yourself counts. And so there's no better transit than a Venus transit to get the party started with regards to having a higher frequency for the levels of our own perception. Mars will continue to move through its transit. There's no coincidence that we had the Aries full moon while Mars was making this transit. There's no coincidence that we had Pluto stationed direct, as well as all of the other planets stationed direct while we're having this Libra transit. It's because we've done a lot of changes. We've been the altar. We've activated things within our own spheres of influence, within our wheelhouse, within our can-dos, within our talents. And it's about believing and buying into ourselves rather than external systems that have passed their sell-by date. It's about buying into ourselves and recognizing we need to level up instead of dragging and pulling on these external relationships that have passed their sell-by date, because you're here as a sovereign being. You and I, we're here as a talented, conscious being. We're here to give ourselves the love that we're here to receive, and in doing that we can have conscious relationships where we are not seeking for a mummy and a daddy, where we're not seeking for a codependent external scenario to give us love, but we can come into a quality of equality. And that's what Libra's teaching us as we move into the Scorpio season. The sun in Mars's sign, we come into the last days of Mars's transit as it makes ingress on the 30th of October to Scorpio. Mars returns back to its domicile sign, and we'll be back to talk about that then. Goodness gracious me. Passionate energy, Stephen, you say. And because Mars is squaring my sun, and I was like, hey, what shall I do? Shall I do this video today? I was like, I wanted to do it a couple of days ago. I've been quite busy. I did a presentation for Nadia Shah teaching about the Progress chart. And that was really great. And I really enjoyed it, but I need to focus on those things before I can come and do this presentation. I'm going to go on to do the horoscopes for each of the 12 signs with using the tarot cards here. But I'm also just going to let you know that you can order your Progress chart or your natal chart or a quick transit reading, whatever you want to order. I'm here for you. Just utilize the links in the description box. Here is a testimonial from Renee. Renee says, Philip's charts and reading were amazing. During our session, he looked at all 4 of our family members. He covered any similarities that we had and also talked about how we fit together as a family. I've got a Cancer midheaven, so this is an expertise that I've got working with families, working with the relationship and dynamics with parents and their children. It's just very easy because if you know your relationship to your child's moon, it helps your bond. It means that you can communicate with them on a level. There's no greater tool than astrology. I found Philip funny and insightful. The time went by too quickly. and I'd like to chat with Philip again. I highly recommend this experience. And I'll tell you, it is an experience. So you're making an investment which is priceless into you. I'll give you the devotion of my consciousness and energy, and we'll pull up your consciousness into the 2D representation of your unique astrological chart on the screen. All of our back and forths, our interactions are recorded. This means you don't need to take any notes, which means you've got your full attention on that moment too, your presence. And so that's brilliant, giving you the opportunity to go back into the recording and study it again and again. And I have people coming back to me saying that they listen to their recordings years later and it's just as valuable. So I'm grateful for that. If you want to book your consultation, do it from the links below. I'm here to serve you. Right, I'm going to take a sip of my beverage. Thanks for your presence. I see you in the live chat. Nadine, thank you for your contributions. You're all deeply appreciated. Intending that you're all having a good day. What day is it? It's Jupiter's day. What does that mean? Well, it's what they call as Jueves here in Mexico. Four's day, obviously Jupiter's day. So what we can recognize is that it's ruled by Jupiter, and you can have some thunderbolts of love from yourself. But here's a couple from me. But you can receive them direct, because we're all connected to each of the planets. They're just a reflection for us, and we learn that everything in this reality is a reflection of us. There's nothing outside of us. We are whole. You're all inclusive, and this is what we're going to be working with within this transit, because we're recognizing that we can take the opportunity to accept and respond with love. Anyway, I spoke enough about it, and to ensure that I've got enough energy and passion and gusto to keep going, I'm going to get into these signs, these horoscopes for each of the 12. And we're going to start with Libra and work our way through to Virgo. And so here we go. Ding, 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 ding. Intending you're having a great day today. As I say, the moon is actually working its way through Aquarius. And so for Libra, it's going to be your season, but it's not quite yet. It's not quite yet. And so there's layers peeling away for Libra folks, and everybody, you could suggest, in many different ways, as we come to the stalling of these retrogrades. It's like the adaptation of many different stories, and layers and stories, they're all the same thing. Like levels of film which go through our eyes. That's what a filter system is, a layer of perspective, like a lens for our consciousness. That's what Libra is. If we're projecting on out from our own vessel, from our own thing, which we can have a great relationship with, and we can only learn about having a greater relationship with ourselves internally by all of the different external relationships. It's not to say that they're pointless or hold no value. Yes, they do. They teach us about being accountable for ourselves. So for Libra folks, which is Libra ascendant, Libra moon, that's me. I'm both a Libra ascendant and a Libra moon, me, and a Libra south node as well. But this is also for your Libra sun. It will be your solar return too. But happy solar return to you, Virgonians. This is what we got. Isn't it perfect? Isn't it perfect? We got this Two of Cups. Very reflective, isn't it? It's about seeing our emotions in other people. If we see someone angry, is it our anger? If we see someone crying, was that our sadness? If we see somebody who is not as fortunate to maybe have a roof above their head, how do we feel and perceive about these things? Do we deem them to be less intelligent or emotionally credible? All these judgments, these scales, they can go up and down where we lay our eyes and feel. Libra, how do you lay your eyes and feel? What is it that you feel, and what does it say about who you are? And how do you really truly feel about who you are? How can you flip the script? How can you doctor and edit the story, the dialogue? I mean, also, we've got to recognize that not are we all of our thoughts. Some of them are our hearts. Some of them are who knows what. So we've got to listen to some things and learn what to take to our hearts. And some things, we can just allow them to flow by. You can just allow them to go on by. Like poo sticks, you know. And so even though there's emotional things that come up for us, doubts, past loves, past frustrations, Whatever comes up for us, we can see reflected 360 degrees all around us. But we've got the infinite ability to be our own hero and to face the music, face the atmospherics, face our frequencies. Mars is the face. And so we can recognize that we're our own heroes as we face and we feel and we heal. As we heal, we recognize that we're stalling the weight, we're putting it down, the baggage claim has been accepted. We accept ourselves and we open up to more love. That's what this is about. We have more love. An infinite amount of our love is inside of ourselves. It's an inside job. When we choose ourselves, we can recognize we pump it up. And so we can pump it up from within. And this is a great opportunity to find love for ourselves as well as all that which is outside of ourselves. Consciously, we are the adaptation. So thank you for holding space, for the infinite ability to be productive and manifest. We got the 2 of Pentacles and the 2 of Cups. This is about finding that a very tangible, practical, emotionally fulfilling, valuable identification with who you are is that which you're able to reveal when you enact and activate this perspective of who you are. Goodness gracious. I was channeling so much. I was like getting in my own way. I love that they're both 2s. What does it create? A mud hut. Something that's sustainable. You've got to build it with love. It takes time. You are the adapter. Mars is there till the end of October. You are worthy. Perceive yourself as worthy. Okay? I love it. Thank you, Nadine. I love your feedback. And Goldie, I see you over there. We just started. This is Libra. We're going through all 12. All 12 we're going through. If you actually want to go into the depth of this whole transit, you want to go back, you want to scale back to the beginning. And if you were in the recording, excuse me. We love everybody in the live chat. I see you, Cats Clubhouse and Brandon. Thank you for sticking around. And Jupiter. Stephen, the Jupiterian. Oh, I'm grateful for you. Everybody who's here present, I'm grateful for each of you being here. We're going to be doing Scorpio now. Mars' sign. Yes, Mars is your ruling planet. And this is really important for the Libra and the Scorpio energies because it's mutual reception. And for your Aries and your Taurus, it's a mutual reception for your chart rulers. And so it's very, very important. And so Scorpio people, it's a 12th house transit. And the same for the Libra folks. As I said, these layers peeling away. It's the 12th house transits. They're going through this energy right now. Virgo, you've finished your 12th house transits. So you're fresh and new. And yet that's the cycle we're within. And so when we're talking about Scorpio, we've got the front runner Venus in this position at this point. And yet Mars, your ruling planet, is in your 12th house. It's behind. And it's going to fall behind the sun and be the last of the personal planets moving through our sky. And so it's the first planet to dawn. In the morning, we'll see Mars eventually be reappearing. It's not happening yet, but Mars will be reappearing in the morning sky eventually once the sun moves far enough away from it. So it's pretty cool. And yeah, here we go, Scorpio. This is 12th house transit of your ruling planet, Mars, in Libra. And yet the whole point is that it's extra perceptive, extra intuitive, extra just going into the feelings, getting submerged, awash with the cascading vortex which you can create, where you put your attention, where you put your imagination. Sometimes it's beyond the veil, where we're replaying our old stories, these layers of our stories, and we can recognize that we're dealing with the opposite sign of your 6th house as well. That's where Aries is. And through this transit, we'll have the full moon in Aries, not before we have a full moon in your 5th house in Pisces. So we're seeing that it's important for Scorpio to work with their creativity, to work with their day-to-day rituals and routines that gives them the activation of their own inspiration. Because Mars is transit the 12th house, and it's the ruling planet of Scorpio, as well as Pluto, which has been retrograde since May, stationing direct at 24 degrees of the 3rd house of Scorpio. So the communications and the boundaries set are all coming into some kind of ending, the identification and an adaptation of who you are, Scorpio, through this transit of Mars through your 12th house. Very interesting. So it is. Woo! Cards went flying. Cards are gone flying. Went under here. What is it? Got to get down here. Sometimes you just got to get down to get up. I say you've got to get down, excuse me, to get up. And that way, you can recognize who you are. And so in recognizing who, I'll just make sure that it was the one card that went down there. Yep. And so when you've got to get down to get up, it's a bit like being baptized. It's a bit like, and that's not a religious term. Let me explain to you guys before, like, we recognize that being baptized is a bit like a baptism of fire. It's like the first day at a new job. It's a bit like recognizing an old story. It's a bit like getting out of our way when we've been right in our way before. It's a bit like recognizing that actually we thought that we weren't worthy, but yet we are. And so we cast ourselves into our own dramatization of our life at a role which is less than who we are. We're not less than anybody. Nobody is less than. We're worthy of the best. We're worthy of what we want. We're worthy of our own joy. A kid goes after what it wants to do, whether it's a fireman, whether it's a space cowboy, whether it's a dinosaur. They can imagine it. They do their best to get towards it. And if it isn't that you can be a dinosaur, then you'll go and be like a creator of some kind of imaginative movies like Spielberg or something, because that's the nearest you're going to get to one of those. And so that's probably what you would do. And so, like, I wanted to be a space cowboy when I was a young star, and I'm still a young star. So what did I do? I become an astrologer, because that's the nearest thing to being a space cowboy that I could be. And that's what I'm doing here. Thank you, Maya. And so basically, we're here to recognize Scorpio. You're having a reset. It's the 12th house transit. There's going to be a few of the layers to this, as well as like there being the Libra new moon that happens while Mars is there. But the cards. When the cards do perfect things, you can't help but admire the grace of miracles. And that's who you are, Scorpio. You're a miracle. And everything's a reflection, just like the Maya. Everything's a reflection. Just calling back. It's a re-repeat. It's a dramatization of who you are. And so we were talking about Libra. For Scorpio, your ruling planet, Scorpio, Mars is transit Libra, which is the 7th sign. Mars is a fire and a watery deity. It's hot water sometimes, but it's in an air sign, the 7th sign. And this is the 7 of Wands. Izzy busy, let's get busy. It's a magical time of resetting our perspective and seeing ourselves, cutting through the veneers of illusions and seeing that we are able to say that we aren't putting up with that BS. Those belief systems are falling away, because this is our opportunity to see that all that which is on display isn't what it weighs out to be, because you are worthy of seeing yourself within the best light, and you see beyond light's an illusion, don't you, Scorpio? You see beyond any illusion because you can feel it. You feel it in your fingers. You feel it in your toes. You can feel it all around you, everywhere you go. With Mars transit in your 12th house in Libra, you've got this level of perception which makes you going in like a hero, going to your own consciousness and accepting yourself. You're able to accept yourself and create a whole new story. It's like the editing room is the 12th house. It's like where we can find all of the transcripts of our own reality, delve into it and think, why do I act that way since I was a kid? Why do I act that way in my relationships? Since they are really just an adaptation of those same scenarios, how can we raise the frequency of them? Yeah, they have the same peaks and troughs, but how can we lift ourselves up and recognize the frequency is always open for adaptation? And so your story is your own narration. And how can you make yourself the central figure and love yourself as the editor, as the architect of your own vision? Look at this. 7 Wands and the Knight of Wands. 7 Wands and the Knight of Wands. Be your own hero. Work within your own integrity. Cut yourself free from anything where you have felt that you weren't able or were less than, because you're worthy of being exactly where you want to be in life. I love it. I see you, Joyce. Thank you for your presence. I'm grateful for each and every single being. Why? Because I learn so much from everything that I lend my eye. That's the Libra energy. I've got lots of Libra energy. And so I love to perceive. We all have a lot of Libra energy. It just comes out in different ways. It's displayed in a different manner. Sagittarius. Oh my goodness gracious. Nadine, I think your comment is very funny. Sagittarius, this is a transit of Mars, fiery deity, watery deity, very inspirational, passionate energy. Mars, the hero, the warrior, sometimes the small, insignificant one when we really feel like one, but actually the one that's always able to overachieve and go and actually adapt and do anything. That's Mars moving through your 11th house in Libra, Sagittarius, a little bit for until the 30th of October. And so it's very important because you're connecting with all different people in your spheres of influence, all different people within your own networks. You can find this is a great time to put your eye on others and then think, that works for me, that doesn't. I'm going to put my eye on this, that works for me, that doesn't. What works, works. Eat the fruit, allow them to nourish you, and hop, spit out the pips. Ting! And then you'll be just fine there. And you're going to know that Mars is really making a fantastic aspect to your ruling planet, Jupiter, as it stations. That's going to be a pinnacle. It's going to be a cherry on top of the cape or the mountain. It's going to be a diamond moment for your consciousness, Sagittarius, when Jupiter stations direct the same day as Mercury in Libra in your 11th house, with Mars making a trine to Jupiter on that very day. Isn't that interesting? What day is it, they say? What day? Let's just have a look, shall we? What day is it that Mars makes that trine to Jupiter? It says it's on the 18th. I should have remembered because it's the day that Mercury and Jupiter station direct. Centralizing that date, you can remember that this is very powerful for you, Sagittarius. Okay, Jupiter, the ruling planet, is of course in your 3rd house. So it's about the connections, the communications, the bridges which you burn and the bridges which you make secure, tight, the fortunate ones which you extend to others, which actually can benefit you. You are like giving out golden tickets. You are a Jupiterian. You are the great benefic. So when you give up opportunities to others, it can also pay dividends for not only how it makes you feel, but also for how others treat you. What goes around comes around. And so Sagittarius, it can be really opportune for you to recognize that when you see yourself as this very credible being of love, you're always a student. You're always that which you lend your eye to. You always, what's that phrase? The apple of your own eye. And so again, we got the Two of Pentacles. I mean, the Two of Cups. And so it's emotions. I said Mars rules Scorpio, which is actually the 12th house for Sagittarius, with Venus transit 12th house Sagittarius and Mars preparing to get there. And we're actually going to recognize that there's obviously then all of the 12th house experiences for you, Sagittarius, which is always about peeling away layers. You've also got the South Node and in your 1st house. And so this is about opening up to the grace, opening up to where you might have cut people off, opening up to where you've cut yourself short, where you've cut other people short, where you're a little bit too abrupt there, Sag. What? Where's he getting this? Where you've cut people short, they can surprise you because they value you. Where you have cut yourself short, you can surprise yourself because you're valuable. And it's through our emotions that are stored, all packed up, locked up, vulnerable. It's through those emotions that reveal the value of who you truly are. Who you truly are is gifted by recognizing that you're able to alter your story when you feel. And that gives you credibility. That gives you a current, you see. That gives you an opportunity to change your story. It's the same card again. It's the Knight of Wands. Andale. Going in with your integrity cuts you free and also enables. It also is profitable. You can pierce through the veil when you connect with the right people and make a quantum elevation due to the expanse in which you're making. This is always an interior moment for Sagittarius with Jupiter retrograde. And with Mars ruling your 12th house and with the South Node in your 1st house through this transit of Mars through Libra, which is your 11th house, you can recognize that you're able to adapt how you feel perceived by other people and recognize that in doing that, you can also heighten your perception of others in the same opportunity. Compassion is the greatest source of love, and you're full of it, Sagittarius. So rise above your perception of shadow and come into the ignition of who you truly are, a great, opportune being with tremendous amounts of infinite love. 2 cups in the Knight of Wands, the Sagittarius transit of Mars in your 11th house. That was for Sagittarius, Sammy. Thank you for your presence. We've got quite a lot of signs to go through, i.e. Capricorn, all the way through to Virgo. I see you, Full Fitness. I'm grateful for you. Thank you each. Yes, we are both the student and the teacher. Let's break down the etymology of the word student for a moment, because it's a stew which we get into, isn't it? And it makes an indent. We are an identification. Mars is an identification, and we make a little in-prick, an indent when we're going in to certain things. And it's actually this opportunity to make ourselves the student of whatever we lend our eye to, because it is all self. Everything that we lend ourselves to is self. Thank you for your presence, because it's actually that when we often lend our eye to something in conversation, we get caught up, whipped up into the storm, whipped up into the matrix, into the theatrics, into the theatre of this hall of mirrors. And we find that we are always loving the adaptation of our relationships. I mean, how often are you in conversation and you're like, this is the Maya, this is an illusion, this is a reflection of my own consciousness. I mean, maybe with your most loved ones, when you're having a spiritual conversation, you might get there. But most of the time, it's like, who didn't buy the milk? You know, if you've got the almond milk, the cocoa milk, I don't know, maybe you don't drink milk. But who made this mess? Who didn't do that? It's all of these little things, isn't it? It's all of the nitty-gritty, which we get caught up into, isn't it? I know it is, because I'm really here too. I see you there, Harmonic Master. Thank you. Christ Almighty, we are all full of it. This is about diamond consciousness. We're the crystal babies. So put ourselves into that majesty. Just because we lose ourselves in the Maya, it's because it's a beautiful golden frequency. Let ourselves off the hook, because we are the stinker that we're here to love. I'm grateful for you. Anyway, let's go into the next one. It's Capricorn, and we're talking about Mars in fellow cardinal energy in the top of Capricorn sky. It's very interesting. It's the 10th house. Capricorn is the 10th sign, and we're talking about Libra, which is the 10th house of Capricorn, and Mars is going to be transit there. We can recognize that actually Mars rules the 4th house of Capricorn. So it's how Capricorn had to take responsibility as a kid, as a young being, and they're very adept about working out their situations in the workplace. Their identifications that they play out from their family life often replay in the world and the workplace, Capricorn. And so this is the opportunity to see that we find the nice security of our adaptation to our healing journey to be successful and respected in the workplace, because that's where we are most familiar. And so there you go. This is a great opportunity for us to work with that energy. You're not going to believe it. You're not going to believe it. It's only one of those same cards. As I just said, the kid. We're looking at finding this energy of our childhood replaying out in the workplace so that we can find a safe space for us to alter our perception of who we are and put ourselves in a very much more conscious, valued orientation of our own deliverance, of our own showing up, of our own presence, of our own talents and gifts, of our own awareness of who we are. This is 7 wands. As I said, Libra, the 7th sign, but again, we can recognize that we were dealing with the 4th house of Aries, which Mars rules. So this is Capricorn we're talking about for this reading. And the 4th house of Capricorn is Aries. Mars rules Aries. And so we're talking about how often very emotional situations can be played out in our social spheres, in our networks, because Mars also rules Scorpio. And it is actually that our home life from when we were a kid plays out when we are in our work opportunities in the world. And so what we're looking at is finding where we felt maybe diminished, where we felt less than. We've done so much good work that we can cut ourselves free from that old idea. We've actually cut ourselves free by showing up, activating, actualizing, being ourselves, being who we want to be in the world for such a jolly long time now, with Pluto stationed direct within this transit. It's like the deeper vibrational octave of Mars. And so this is about recognizing our own self-empowerment in who we are in the world. Capricorn, goodness me, Saturn will also station direct within this transit, with Mercury in a harmonic trine to it. So much goes on, which is giving you structure and support within the value of who you are, Capricorn. Jupiter also stationed direct in your second house within this transit. Oh, goodness gracious. The opportunities that are being activated by you showing up consistently, persistently, regardless of whatever's going on for you, within you. This is you creating a whole new you because you are able and you're enabling this space. And so you can find that beyond time, you're healing that kid, that child, because you are the ram and you're uploading a whole new idea in this space. Obviously, you're the goat, but we're talking about Mars. And so it's this new idea of you in the world, which you're uploading, which gives you the opportunity to find that it opens up a brand new potential for tomorrow because you've changed the old feeling about who you were yesterday. I love it. Seven swords and the ace that was up your sleeve all along, but it gives you the consciousness of the crown, the template, to give yourself the recognition that you deserve. That crown is not some royal golden thing that's external. It's in here. It's your eye of perception. It's who you truly are. Recognize yourself because you're worthy. That's everybody. Okay, and so we're keeping on. I see you, Joan B and Cosmic Rose. I'm really grateful. Thank you for your lovely responses. I'm grateful for your lovely messages. Each one of you, you're fantastic. Right, so that was Capricorn. Next, we got Aquarius. Interesting for the Aquarius because in this transit, you're going to have Saturn, your ruling planet, stationed direct in your first house. It's a big deal for you guys. It's a bit like giving yourself a knighthood with regards to the retrograde, saying, hey, we've gone back. And now we've got to do that work as we move forward, but it's worth it. And it's worth it. We're worthy. We are the cause. And so, of course, putting yourself forward, recognizing yourself as very worthy it's astutely a humanitarian scenario that recognize that what you're doing for you is for everybody. And so congratulate yourself. You are the hero, even though you might not give yourself that credibility. You are a very important piece in the puzzle. Your genius, your sight, your insight, and your opportunity to place diplomatically the people into the right places so that you can be a bit like the puppeteer that allows the central figures, each one of them, to be where they need to be. Oh, Aquarius. I love it. Okay, and so this is a transit through your ninth house. Again, it's about your belief about who you are. And it's about your belief about your communication of who you are, the diplomacy which you put across. I mean, do they think you're highly strung? Do you think that you're cold? No, you're just so gosh darn visionary that you know, in a sense. You've got the awareness. You've already seen it. And so to set the pieces, it needs a certain level of tact. It needs a certain level of secret agent abilities that Mars as a Scorpio ruler could be. And so you're recognizing your abilities and your philosophy. You're recognizing your, wow, that was fun. The way they came out, it looked pretty mighty. And so you can recognize that actually this is about letting go of old belief systems in your interactions with other people, old perceptions about your interactions and communications with other people, especially in the world. With Mars all in your third house and your 10th house, it's free because this is an 8 of swords. And so it's about setting yourself free from the old perception about how you thought others saw you, about maybe even how you saw others. And this gives yourself a new sense of identification, a transmutation about how you would communicate, how you would feel other people's thoughts about you. It's changing. You are the change. And so you're the adaptation of your thought process, your thinking process, the thinking process that often makes us feel less than. When you come into the feelings of recognizing the wisdom within you, you can see that you're a necessary component. Oh, yes. Everybody is very appreciative of you. And so lend yourself this emotional recognition in your day-to-day practices. This is my birth card. You can lend yourself your emotional recognition. Even when there's doubts, we can play into them emotionally. But when you give yourself the opportunity to really love yourself every single day as a pattern, What is a pattern? It's something that you put the rights onto, isn't it? It's something that you record. It's something that you wax, like a lunar cycle. It's something that you want to put the mastering rights to. When you put a pattern onto something, like an iPhone, like a new idea, like a business, what kind of pattern do you want to put on your own emotional imprint there, Aquarius? How can you love yourself in your day-to-day experiences as well as other people which you're interacting with in business, in family, in all your arenas? But the more importantly that you have a tight, loving, emotional relationship with yourself, the more that flowers can bloom in every interaction that you congregate and go into. 8 swords, an ace of wands, and the 6 of cups for Aquarius. Transit of Mars through your 9th house until October the 30th. Very important that it's going to be making all of these lovely different station directs within that transit. It's going to be very, very interesting because it's a bit like, hey, the gangway's clear by the time that Mars goes into your 10th house, fellow fixed sign of Scorpio. Interesting. Okay, next we got Pisces. Pisces, this is a transit of Mars through your 8th house of Libra. And so this could be a bit saucy. It could be a little bit, I'm really annoyed with the nearest and dearest people. It could be a bit like, oh my gosh, I very need much to cut myself free from this relationship because it's dragging me down. It's dragging me down. I thought I was helping them, but now it's not helping me. And so we can recognize even, this doesn't mean always about cutting free from someone that we love entirely. It could be just an idea. It could be just a perspective that we had of this relationship. But it may be that we do need to put up a necessary boundary, even from someone we've already been excluded from, or that we need to exclude ourselves. It's about recognizing that we are the healer of our own journey, that we are able to feel into the frequencies and change our end of the story, but knowing that we need to keep ourselves sovereign from any draining situations. Like Libra's the scales, and you soon feel it. Oh, Pisces, don't you know? Oh, you know more than most, do you not? So, seeds of heaviness, because they bloom into heavy trees. And so one must come back to the root of that which is being seeded and gain the opportunity to see it from another perspective. To find actually that the thought, the conception, the doubt, the lie, the illusion, that which we see or say yes to will soon bloom. So see yourself within the eyes of love. See those people far from you, 180 degrees, at that ratio of insignificance, those others, they're not as important as who you are. Put yourself as that impotent position in the pole of your heart. Because so many times we can put ourselves in compromising scenarios where we place ourselves second. And that's so depleting and draining for our sense of self. And so Pisces, what a dance, what a weave. You and I, well, you and your compadres, we've been through a lot. Pisces, this is an opportunity to rework your perception of yourself in your most personal, nearest and dearest relationships, and your perception is shrewd. But it's about really coming into the opportunity to fill your own heart, fill your own cup. Woo! Goodness gracious, these cards. And so again, we got the 8 of Swords. It's the 8th house, an air sign. We did have this card again, but we can't deny the omen. It's air in the 8th. And this is 8 swords, as well as the ace. It's Mars there, isn't it? It's a new beginning for you and your personal relationships there, Pisces. It's a whole new beginning for your perception about how you're received and how you receive others. It's how you respond to others with love. It's how you respond to yourself in interactions when pontificating and ruminating about your relationships with others. It's also about recognizing that you can be the leader. You can set yourself free. You can charge yourself up when you actually find that you're the leader. You're the most important being. You need to put yourself first in relationships. And when you do that, you fill your own cup. You overflow with the good stuff because We're all full of it. You're a centrifugal source of it. Infinite love do we all have within us. But it's when we put the importance of other people above us, that's when we forget that source. That's when we come second. And that's a drain. So recognize the healing journey and find the quality in those relationships. The finest quality is E, which is an infinite vowel. Equality. Pisces. That was your 8th house transit of Mars in Libra. Next, we got Aries. And Aries, you're ruled by Mars. You are your own hero. You don't need me to tell you about it because I'm Libra AF. I have got a North Node in Aries, though. Yes, I do. I've also got the asteroid Vesta. And so basically, you Aries folks, you're going to be working with an opportunity to see yourself through other people's eyes. And this is really interesting for you, a whole different dynamic for you, especially with Venus going through fellow Mars-based sign. But that is obviously your 8th house. And so you're also very considerate of others at this time, very much involved with other beings at this time. But we really need to remember, as awesome as these other beings are, you are the one, you are that being that counts. And so this is very important. But yet, it's about working with both. Of course, do-si-do. Do-si-do is the frequency of recognizing that sometimes through other people, we can learn so much about ourselves. I mean, what's being reflected through your relationships says so much more about ourselves than what other people's story of that same experience may be. They got a different story about it. It's so funny. It's crazy. Woo! And again, it's about the value of seeing both sides, because then we can come into an adaptation, because our side's not right, neither's theirs. But maybe somewhere in the middle, we can find a biting point. Maybe we can find a certain degree of compassionate love for both people in certain scenarios. A compromise for both people in a scenario means that we're very compassionate, which is a higher vibrational octave of love for all. It's all inclusive. And that is meaning I think that's most successful as a Libra dominant being. But Aries, you're going to have this 7th house transit of Mars through Libra until the 30th of October. And it's about having the benefit, the very valuable benefit of recognizing yourself and others, which gives you so much. And it's giving you a certain level of intelligence when it comes down to your relationships, but it's not putting yourself in a compromising succession or position. I don't think that fraudulent slips are false omens. I think they're worthy of listening to. What do you gain from listening to those words which come out of one's mouth? Yourself or others that you hear, that you earwig, that you listen to? What comes out from my mouth? What comes out from the people's in the coffee shops? You know, what's going on around you? What does it say about you? This is the reflection. This is what you gain so much from. It's a level of depth. And so you can find that even while doing that, you're always going to be tethered to your own heart. And that makes you magnetic, magnanimous, magnificent. It can make you be able to cut yourself across from any angle because you're the queen. And the queen can do any moves. Just stay in your heart. That's very shrewd. It's about able to help see through illusions, but being able to create an adaptation while still being within them. Aries. This is the transit of Mars through very airy 7th house of Libra until the 30th of October. We got the 2 of Swords and the Queen of Swords. Very nice. I see you, Sierra, and the Misfit Kid. I'm grateful for each one of you. Thank you for your presence. Oops, I just put someone's comment on the screen. I hope it's a nice one. Does Philip teach tarot reading? I would love to learn. We probably could do a tarot workshop on this, and that would be something you might want to do. Obviously, I do teach in the one-on-one consultations. If you buy time with me, I'm here to share my energy, and you're the director. I'm the guide. I say you're the director, I'm the guide. So if you make an investment, I'm here to serve you. But thank you for the idea. Maybe I can do a workshop on the old tarot. I see somebody else in the live chat, but I can't pronounce your name. But I'm grateful for each being who's contributing. I see you, Catherine. Thank you for your contributions. You're fantastic. And Wuzzy, Fuzzy, and all of you. You're fantastic. Crystalline, Shan can shine. Obviously, that was your thing, which I popped up on the screen. Thank you for your your present. Taurus, we got next. Taurus, you're ruled by Venus, which is off on its journey through your 6th house in Scorpio. You're working with your day-to-day rituals and routines. But with Mars in your 5th house of creativity right now, not your 5th, excuse me, Mars is actually in your 6th. I was getting a little bit ahead of myself there, Taurus. Mars is in your 6th house. It is actually that Venus is in your 7th house. And so, again, you're really working with your level of perception. I mean, how valuable do you feel when you're activating yourself in your day-to-day rituals, in your routines? It's a tropical Western zodiac that we work with right here. And so what we're working with is finding that for Taurus, with Mars in your 6th house until the 30th of October, you're able to really go into a media. Taurus is really good at sticking at something. Taurus is really good at being persistent with something. Taurus is really good at making something functional work and making it the best. And so when you do something in a ritual, day after day, whether it's an art, whether it's a craft, whether it's practicing a different language, it could be practicing astrology, it could be practicing the tarot, it could be cracking people up with sweet lines of jokes. Maybe you're writing a comedy show. I don't know what you're doing. Maybe it's a book. It could be writing this book, which is the book about the astrological practices of Jung, written by or adapted by Liz Green. Maybe you work writing apps for iPhone. I don't know what you do. It could be that you sell extended lighters for grills. Whatever your craft is, Taurus, it's really about you enjoying it. It could be that you're finding that what you have found as your unique talents is something that nobody else is doing. And if your persistence continues to create, then you can find that you're a very valuable identity. You're headhunted and sought after because your quality of talent is something that nobody else can do. And so this is what I suggest you can keep. You have your focus on. It's like a laser focused like practice that you can just continue to find is your greatest wealth. We got this Chariot card coming out. It's about your body. It's about recognizing emotional situations that come up. You're able to steer yourself in a way which is honoring because they come through your body and also through any experiences with work. That can be an emotional scenario. The Chariot's kind of lunar. And so we're recognizing that also that the 6th house is about health. And so you can find that there's an opportunity to face the music with our day-to-day practices. Are you doing things that bring you into scenarios that make you feel so depleted that you feel unhealthy? Well, how can you put yourself in a day-to-day operation that allows you to feel better, to feel more emotionally healthy? This is very important. How do you pump yourself up into the frequency of emotional fulfillment in your day-to-day practices and routines, activating joy in your level of perception of who you are? That is for Taurus. And, anything that brings you into dismay should be weeded out, clearly. It's going to fall away. Tarot card. It's about letting go of anything that wasn't sustainable. And this is very interesting. Venus going through its full sign, 180 degrees across the way, your ruling planet. It's about a level of perception about who you are falling away. Maybe you had a doubt. Maybe you thought that you weren't recognized. And that's about that continuous, petulant, bullying thought about your work, about your body, about whatever it was. It could have been dysmorphia about your body, about thinking that you're ugly, but you're not ugly. You're gosh darn beautiful. You're a Taurus, for goodness sake. And so it's about recognizing not only is the beauty your body, your face, your landscape, the way that you live your life, it's also your craftsmanship, it's your talents, it's your wheelhouse, it's what you do in the world. And so this level of perception about your body or your gifts should be doubt which is put to bed. Put it to rest. It should be the death of what was and the birth of this significant recognition of your own emotional acceptance, your own, I can support myself from the inside out because I'm worthy. I am valuable. And that is who I am going to be. So it's about adapting how you see yourself. And you're worthy of that there, Taurus. It's a transit of Mars through your 6th house until the 30th of October. Let me take a sip of my drink. You want to learn about the asteroids, do you, Catherine? A workshop on that? Well, these workshops take a while to organise. I've already got my eye on doing one with you guys about the lifespan of transits Yes, I'm going to be doing one, and I'll present it to you in a couple of weeks. I'm just going to get on to working onto that through this Mercury retrograde, but we're going to do a lifespan of transits always all the way up to the age of 84, which is the Uranus return, which is about 5 or 6 Jupiter returns, and it's a couple of Saturn returns and a half. And so we're going to look at all of these arpeggio over loops and how actually we span out, and so many of the stories from when we were a kid, just playing and playing and playing again. But it's a bit like a song. It's a music, it's an orchestration. And so we get to learn about how music works with astrology and how we adapt our story through time into a way which is quite genius from beyond time. And so that's going to be fun. It's very, very academic, but very, very spiritual and very, very ecological. So I look forward to doing that. Angela, thank you for your presence. I'm grateful for you. Anyway, next we got Gemini. Thank you each for your sticking around. Thank you each for your ears. Thank you each for your eyes. Thank you for seeing yourself and hearing yourself. Thank you for holding yourself in a loving space. Gemini, this is an opportunity for you. We're talking about Gemini as of now. This is an opportunity for you with Mars going to be in Libra, fellow Aries 5th house. Cards popped out here. 3 cards and whatever's bottom of the pack. We've got Mars going through your 5th house in Libra for Gemini until the 30th of October. But this is interesting because while this whole transit's going on, Mercury, your ruling planet, stationing, it's slowing down now to station retrograde. It's going to go back and then it's going to move direct and go beyond Mars. It's going to make 2 conjunctions with Mars and go beyond Mars off into Scorpio before Mars finishes this transit. And so that's very interesting, isn't it? And the cards which we popped out are the 9 of Swords. 5th house is about creativity. How can you find that while this is going on, Mars going through your 5th house, Mercury, your ruling planet, in that same space, retrograde in the 5th, how can you recreate your belief systems? How can you recreate your stories? There's a big activation going on in your 9th house with Jupiter, with Saturn, and they're both going to be stationed direct in this time. Also will be Pluto in your 8th house. So Gemini with Mercury retrograde in your 5th house while Mars is making this transit and having a new moon in Libra and all the other full moons that we're going to be having through this time. How can you let go of old identifications, old limiting belief systems, and adapt your perception of yourself through your recreation of who you are? And it's about recognizing your gifts, your talents, your heart. It's about being open. It's about actually letting go of some thoughts. Gemini. It's about letting go of the mind and coming to your senses. How can you find that you get something out of your creativity that allows you to come into the bandwidth of meditation, that allows you to come into your body rather than the mind, that allows you to come into your senses and your sensibilities and the sensual nature of your heart's creations? Now that's mindful. That's shrewd. That's a practice. That's like meditation in itself, isn't it? Creation. And so how can you come into the heart there, Gemini? How can you find that this adaptation brings you into that quality of your being? How can you do what's just for you as well as for everybody around you? How can you perceive of your creativity, your heart, as light as a feather? And let go of so many of the heavinesses through your creations. Our art is like our honey. And if we can put our honey in the cracks of our heart, then we're always healing with that which we create. And that is only just. As you weigh yourself up on the scales of your own perception, your creation is beauty. Oh, Gemini. Started a little bit severe and stern, but it ended up on that lovely tone. It's about letting go of those old belief systems with the 9 of Swords, and the Empress, Major Arcana, says, hey, you're a magnet for creation. So see that within your level of perception and go into that frequency. Get out of the mind. Come to your heart. The Knight of Swords is saying that's a certain level of integrity which you can hold yourself to, especially when weighing yourselves up against others. Justice is also a major arcana. Wow, this is a transit of Mars through your 5th house for Gemini. Create a masterpiece because you are the master. Mars star. It says no other than that. You are the master of the records, the master of our own recording rights. Starts within our hearts. Create your masterpiece. Next, we got Cancer. I've got to take a last sip of my beverage. I wish there was more left because I'm quite parched. I've been saving it. I've been savouring it. Thank you for your presence. I'm grateful for each one of you. If you want to book a consultation, you know what to do. Description box below. I'm grateful for you. Lovely Arcea or RC. I like your name. Excuse me for not saying it correctly, maybe. I'm grateful for you. Thank you, Brandon. I'm grateful for each and every single one of you contributing in the chat. Oh, that's a lovely compliment from Catherine. She said, man, you make learning astrology interesting. I'm pumping myself up now, so I've got good energy for these last three. We're going to do Cancer, we're going to do Leo, and we're going to do Virgo, and we're all equal. These are best for your ascendants, for your moon signs, and your sun sign. We've got a bandwidth of creativity that we can do, but it's actually our ascendant which earths us here into the atmospherics. It's our moon that allows us to feel into the energies which we're alleviating, that we're letting go of, that they're in our bodies, the embodiment of our matriarchal line. And it's the sun, our solar creativity, which gives us the opportunity to really have a bandwidth of navigation. It's the lucidity that we gain when we recognize that, yeah, we're wading through illusions, but it's all within us. There's nothing external, but the opportunity to work with this hall of mirrors, which is a beautiful, beautiful experience we call time. And time, well, it airs out all the layers because we live it out here, live, within the atmosphere of Earth, which is our heart's glory. Thank you for your presence. I'm grateful for you. And so here we go. We're going to be doing Cancer. You're ruled by the moon. And we're within a Virgo lunar cycle. We will, within this Mars in Libra transit, have a Libra lunar cycle also take part. But for Cancer, this is a transit of your fourth house. Libra is the fourth house of Cancer. So it's a very Cancerian transit. But just like for Capricorn, if you remember, there was the flip of the houses. Well, for all of the signs, it's for the flip of the houses. But it's very potent with these cardinal signs, particularly because Cancer is a cardinal sign. And we can see that Libra is a cardinal sign. And Mars ruling Aries rules the 10th house for Cancer. And so it's very important. And again, you can recognize that Mars rules Scorpio, which again is we're working with the fifth house. It's like, how can you recreate your story in a way which is nurturing for you? How can you recognize with your family there's these adaptations, there's these recreations, there's this opportunity to see your perspective through more nurturing eyes? Sometimes we might prefer our nest to the world, to the business world, and yet you're very good and adept in that too, Cancer. You know, you're a warrior spirit, and so it's about recognizing sometimes you do a lot of your work from home and you take your home life to work. And so it's seeing that we air our laundry in both vicinities of our experience, and you can find that you're at home at work and you can work from home both quite easily, and you can adapt to both quite normally for you. But it's about the perception of how you can make these things, and you need to set better boundaries for your level of that perception, how you're valued by people in the workspace as well as at home. And we replay our traumas of the world at home. And so this is an opportunity to see that we are able to adapt them as we respond with greater love, kindness, even compassion. There might be things we don't like, but it's in our home. How do we deal with that? Well, with a sympathetic eye, because it's about something that's within us. And so it's the sympathetic, compassionate eye which wins. You know it best, Cancer. And so it's about lending love. Oh, goodness, this is lovely. It's about lending love, surrendering, auditing, surrendering, and finding that when we respond, like as a warrior, like something's right in our face and we wouldn't choose it, but we would respond with love. That's being compassionate. That's surrendering to our heart's value. That's seeing beauty, even in the most daunting of veneers. How can we remove the splinter from the cell that had such a charge? How can we remove the thorn from our side? How can we see that we're able to create a new story from something that was been in our family for years and years and years and years and years. You are the anchor of love. How can you transmute old stories and be within the central source of your own value and surrender to what was and create and open up to your heart's glory? Queen of Pentacles. And the Hanged Man says your level of perception is deep AF, Cancer. How can you nurture yourself? How do you hold good boundaries and let go of illusions? How do you find that actually so much comes up through our family? Ever think about ourselves? Ever think about all of the stories that hold charge within every single one of ourselves, Cancer? The emotions hold everything, but they also cut us free. How can you feel that you are the blade, Mars, you are the kid, you are the ram, you are uploading new identifications every time that you hold a space of love for yourself and others? Ding, 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 ding. It's the completion of what was, the valuable identity. 10 Pentacles. You are valuable. You are valued in the world and at home. So recognize that, because this is the results. And you are worthy. You're going to have that full moon in the 10th house in this period. And Mars rules that Aries. And so you are that I am. Recognize you are the spark of Christ. You are the crystal baby. You are the consciousness that is irreplaceable, irrefutable. Recognize your value through the depths of the needle. You are worthy. Love it. Queen of Pentacles and the Hanged Man and 10 Pentacles. That's about a very practical completion and maybe a new time for you to be where you need to be for you. I don't know where these messages come from. Are they up there? Or are they within here? I think they're within this sphere, because actually all of the greatest adaptations come within our heart. So you can recognize that anything that you need to get off your chest, you are supported. The family around you, the supporting cast, whoever they are, wherever they are, you are supported. We're all as innocent as we were when we were a kid. We are always able to go beyond and see a sympathetic, intimate eye when we expose our most vulnerable, delicate parts. Yes, they are our hearts which we expose to one another. And so, hold a space of love for yourself and others. You don't need me to tell you that. Goodness. It's just a reminder, right? It's just a reminder. Thank you for reflecting love. I'm grateful. Next, we got Cancer. We got Leo. We just did Cancer. Thank you very much. We do have Leo, and it's about recognizing that Libra is your third house. Mars is going to be going through your third house, which may be, a little bit of hot water in conversations and communication. Sometimes you need to put up a boundary and cut yourself free. The sun will go into Libra, and so obviously there's a lot of focus on that, with you being the sun. You are Leo, and you're the hero yourself, right? And so it's about recognizing that the sun traveling with Mars can be a little bit hot under the collar. You might find actually it's best just to keep yourself to yourself in certain ways, but you get dragged into this, into that. People make a villain out of you. People pointing the finger at you. But actually, are you pointing back at them? We need to be responsible, right? So there's so much going on. Recognizing the sun, making its transit on the bottom half of your sky. So many of these personal planets in the bottom half of the sky. We must take account of responsibility for that which is going on in the atmosphere. Change and alter our belief systems. We are within a Virgo lunar cycle coming towards a harvest full moon. And so we can be the alternative. We can be the native that chooses a different story from what has been seen before. As we set a different scene, we set standards for what can be. We're not putting up for what was. We cut ourselves free. Leo, this is about you recognizing just because your ruling planet, the sun, is going through Libra, the Fool, and this is an opportunity to see that as we have this solar Mars conjunction, you can recognize yourself as the kid, the heart, as well as your farthest leading example of love. You are your nearest and dearest, most intimate being too. You are recognizing that you're your bigger brother, your bigger sister. You are the star, as well as this infinite seeding of stars. You share your radiance with others. And it's about your radiance, your light, your beams, your glory, your heart substance, the warmth of who you are, the compassion just to give, even if those people aren't showing their gratitude. You give anyway. It's not about feeling that you're not recognized. It's about just recognizing yourself always. Even if the days do grow short through this time, even if the rays do grow less than through these time, your magnificence is for you to remember. It's for you to hold strong. Woo! Leo. Wow, you shut the front door. Can't help it. Can't help it. You charge yourself up, you get a story like that. You are the rays of consciousness. So raise your frequency endlessly, onwardly, forever more. Have a tight relationship and more your relationship to the embankment of your own current, because you are the present, and recognize yourself as the hero within this story because it's your story. Amanda Engels, you are awesome. Each and every single one of you, wherever Leo falls into your chart, you are absolutely spectacular. We are centrifugal stars on the oceans of consciousness to see yourself within the bandwidth of your own recognition, because you're glorious. Glorious, so you are, but it's the belief systems that you got to let go of. Mars rules your 9th house. It's about those limiting belief systems, about communications with others that we got to let go of. Cut yourself free. Be the adaptation in your story. Shine your light inward and continue to love externally. No need to be bitter because we think that we're not being received. We won't be if we receive ourselves. It's only because we put the attention or expect that we are due to receive externally that makes anybody bitter. Receive it internally, and then you won't mind. You'll be in your heart. Oh my gosh, it's good shit. That's fertile, isn't it? Leo, this is the transit of Mars for your 3rd house of Libra. Through the fall, the sun can still be glorious, as well as letting go of these kind of like 9 old outdated belief systems. Yeah, we bought into us. We bought into them. But then that was then. They're expired. Buy into you, and your view of others is worthy as well. So recognize that you can still have a compassionate, you can still have a generous attitude to the way that you share your heart. Thank you for being you. I enjoyed that one. Jeez, sometimes you really get tapped in. What can you do, eh? Next, we got Virgo. Oh, it's our daily bread. It's the body. It's the embodiment of the Mother of Christ, which is actually the vessel. We're talking about the body. We're talking about the thing that enables us to be here. We've got to be grateful for the body. Because the body allows us to be present. The body allows us to come on here and to make YouTube videos, to make our Instagram posts, to make the shuffling of the deck take place. Without a body, no change would be taking place within this space. So we can find that we are the mother of this playground. We are Demetra, the harvester of change. We are the mother of consciousness. Virgo. This is a transit of Mars through Libra, your 2nd house. I'm grateful for you. Thank you for your presence. This is an opportunity for you to see yourself and recognize your glory, your value, because this is your story. This is your layer. This is the atmospherics of Earth. So be practical for a moment and recognize that you are the infinite source of love. And no less shall you receive when you deem yourself credible of receiving that love. Thank you for being within your own cycles. This is the end of the summer. And the summarization of your value is spectacular. And thank you for seeing yourself and seeding love. Take that for what you wilt. If you've got no Virgo placements like me, or if this is your ascending sign, your moon sign, or your sun sign, you are worthy. I'm grateful for you. Whether your name's Robin Evans in the live chat or A to Z, all of you are equally appreciated. Thank you for being where you're at. This is the last of these readings. We've got to Virgo. We started at Libra. Your ruling planet, Virgo's Mercury. And it's going to be stationed retrograde within this transit in your 2nd house. So this is about the adaptation of recognition of your value. And it's about a layer of perception. It's about a filter system. It's about a lens of observation. How do you see yourself? How can you see clearly when you're working with old belief systems and patterns from that which you had integrated from your system from which you were a kid? How can you load up new ideas? How can you find that you're actualizing and activating a perspective of value within you that allows you to see this is a seed? You are a star seeding new stories. You are the mother of the consciousness within your view of who you are. So allow yourself to be open. Open up a porthole, open up a lens of observation that allows yourself to see you through the heart of your own compassion. Virgo, you are worthy. And so with Mercury going retrograde, it's going to meet Mars. It's going to meet Mars and the Sun. It's going to stop and station direct the same day that Mars makes that trine to Jupiter. Oh my goodness gracious gosh. This is about you recognizing that you can let go of old belief systems like a frisbee. You can let go of old belief systems like the leaves from the trees, like the harvest that is going to be sacrificing and adapting the story of who you are and putting yourself in a position of glory. You are worthy of no less. This is your story. It happens through cycles, doesn't it? What have we got? What have we got? Well, I've seen it. I've seen it before and I've seen it again. But this is your story within time. The signs of the waves or a frequency. And this is about recognizing your frequency is worthy, open to be adapted. The adaptation is seeing that you are who you say you are. You are a burning effigy. You're a star. Set yourself ablaze and ignite yourself within your own creation, because you are able to be a hero, a warrior. You are able to rein it in and to be an activist. You are able to go against the grain and walk your own walk like nobody else is doing. Talking your own talk, creating traction, being the hermeticist, going it alone as a warrior, significantly. People can see you. You're creating it. You're making a stir. They're like, oh, look at Virgo doing that thing that only you can do. And you're a messenger. You are a crystal conscious messenger. People see you. You're creating waves. Thank you for surfing. Oh my gosh. You can't even. I can't even. Woo! Double major arcana. Not only do we have a very sincere, serious, direct, laser-focused emperor, but we got a playful fool. Thank you for being who you are. This is your story. And when you focus on yourself, you become a magnet. You become this divot. It's riveting. You become the creator of your own masterpiece. Thank you for mastering the rights to your record. You make a spin. You are spinning the world right round, baby, right round. Like Pete Burns so easily said. I think he's a Libra. This is about facing the music, letting go of the old stories, the old layers, and recognizing that you're the creator of a new one, Virgo. Fantastic stuff. The Emperor and the Fool, the transit of Mars through your second house in Libra until the 30th of October. We're done. Process it. Thank you for whoever does the timestamps. I'm grateful for those guys that do. I would love it if someone didn't do them all one by one. One person does them all 12. That person, fantastic. You are so appreciated, that person who did that. I'm grateful for you. Everybody who stuck around, I'm grateful for each and every single one of you. Thank you for staying with yourself. Thank you for sticking within your own heart and bouncing into relationships in the atmospherics. Thank you for holding that ambience. Thank you for holding that frequency of love. You are a warrior, and your inspiration, your joy, your admiration, your direction in life, and the way that you perceive you counts. If you would like me to hold space and help you with your own personal natal chart, we'll raise any frequencies that need to be raised. We'll recognize any successes that you've already made. I'm here to help you. I'm also here to apply all transits through the next couple of years to your chart so that you are able to feel empowered and make the most of your journey. I'm also here to help you have a tighter, more succinct relationship with astrology so that you can be your own astrologer moving forward. All the information that you need, as usual, is in the description box below. Reach out and we'll find a time to connect. I'm grateful for each and every single one of you. Thank you for sharing the video. Thank you for thumbs it up. Thank you for holding that love in space. You're so worthy. Recognize yourself. Recognize that sometimes when things come up, yeah, they're a shadow, daunting us, taunting us, saying, hey, you're worthy of love. Are you going to replay these old stories? Ponder, pause, say, hey, I'm worthy of ejecting. I'm worthy of pulling myself out. I'm seeing where I've got stuck before. I'm not going to replay those things. We get tested. But these are worthy tests for us to rise up above and beyond, to see that any roadblocks are like an apparatus for us to ascend our consciousness. And that means feeling and being, activating and revealing with our own disclosure of our vulnerabilities. It really means playing back the real of our time, the reality of our own personal experiences, doing the shadow work, having a depth of our perception and going straight in, having the courage to go for what we want in life, having the perception to recognize that we are worthy of anything that we can perceive and not accepting for second best. Thank you for your presence. Thank you for revealing the gifts to yourself. And thank you for receiving love at your core. Because, cool, blimey, you're worthy. Have a fantastic selection of moments. I'm grateful for each and every single one of you. Cheerio for now.